Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. Today, I have another Escalade video for you guys. Something I've been working on for a while now, an in-depth interior restoration video. I already started taking a lot of the interior apart when I was doing all of those audio upgrades a while back. If you haven't seen that video, it's pretty cool. I've got a link to the Escalade video playlist down in the description box below. Now, I'm going to preface this video by saying this Escalade is already in phenomenal shape. 96% of what I'm going to be doing in this video is because I am exceptionally picky, and I'm going to reiterate that multiple times throughout this video. I want this thing to be as close to new feeling as I can make it. So I'm going to be fixing little broken clips. I'm going to be repainting a plethora of parts, which is going to require a ton of work. I'm also going to be replacing some controls and updating some stuff. It's just gonna be an entire process. And of course, I'll highlight a little bit the headliner and the upholstery and whatnot. But anyway, there is so much stuff to cover in this video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. One more thing, I almost forgot. I've got to plug my Amazon store. So I'm not working with any sponsors or anything like that for this Escalade content. This is just all stuff that I've purchased or stuff that I've wanted to try, and I just want to make this Escalade super, super nice. So any of the products and supplies that you see in this video or any of the Escalade videos, if you want to learn more about it or even purchase some, I've got a link to my Amazon store down in the description box below. It helps support me and the channel and hopefully some future Escalade content. That being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video so far, and a big thanks to those of you who have used the affiliate links. I mean, you don't even have to buy Escalade stuff. Just go through the links, buy some normal household stuff on Amazon. It still helps support the channel. It really, really means a lot. So, for real this time, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now, when you take a look at these clips from my initial in-depth review after we bought this thing earlier this year, you're probably asking yourself, well, my gosh, what is he talking about? That interior looks fantastic. And it does. I'll be the first to admit. Most of these Escalades are completely ratted out, and this one is phenomenal. But that doesn't mean it's perfect. It's far from perfect. It needs a headliner. It needs front seat upholstery. It needs a bunch of things that I'm going to be taking care of in this video. So first and foremost, what I'm going to be tackling is repainting all of the front interior plastics. And the reason I'm doing that is because of a subpar coating that GM applied to many of these plastics. It's actually like a soft touch coating, if you will, almost like they were trying to make the harder plastics seem less hard, maybe a little bit nicer. I don't know, but over the years especially, as the coating deteriorates, it gets super fragile. It's very unforgiving to chemicals and whatnot, and it's easy enough to scratch off with your fingers. So the original dashboard in this one had a bunch of scratches. It had areas where the coating had flaked off, and the dash is black plastic underneath, so it's super noticeable. Now, when I did my audio system upgrades in the last Escalade video, I showed taking apart a lot of the interior already, so if you'd like to see any of that, just go back and check it out. I've got the link to the Escalade playlist in my description box below. Obviously, the thing that I was dreading the most was the dashboard. It is one giant sheet of plastic, and it can be very fragile. I've seen many second-gen Escalades with cracked dashboards, and good ones command a big premium. I will say I must have had a horseshoe in my back pocket one day at the junkyard because I found a second-gen Escalade that hadn't been completely picked through that had a perfect dashboard in it. I mean, it was chipped up and stuff, but it wasn't broken, and it was $30. So I will keep that thing for as long as we have this Escalade, just as a backup. I actually decided to use the junkyard dash as the test bed for my refurbishing process. What I needed to do first was blast off all of the soft touch paint, coating, whatever you want to call it. And I did test this out beforehand. My pressure washer, it's a 2300 PSI, and on the most aggressive tip, it did not mar up or damage this hard plastic whatsoever. Now, if you were doing it on something soft and rubbery like the airbag cover, it will ruin it. So be careful with what surfaces you're working with. But as you can see, this soft touch stuff just blasts right off. Now, to properly paint plastics like this, it is a labor-intensive process. You need to make sure that thing is exceptionally clean and then go through the steps of getting the proper scrubby cleaners and stuff that will help etch the surface but also remove any other traces of dirt and contamination. In the past, traditionally, I've used Sim products for plastic and vinyl refinishing. I think they're some of the best out there for doing this kind of work. Color Bond is another really good brand that I haven't had experience with much until this project. So I've got all these Sim products, but they didn't have the main dash color, which is very dark pewter. I would have had to get it custom made, and it would have been like twice the cost. So I ended up getting Color Bond because they had very dark pewter. Everything else is Sim. So after all of that scrubby cleaning outside, I did the plastic vinyl prep spray, cleaned that really thoroughly, and then everything got a thorough wipe down with isopropyl alcohol. I can't remember the exact ratio, but it's in the instructions that Sim has. But anyway, once everything is all wiped down, because this had a factory two-tone theme on the passenger side, I of course had to mask that down, but then it was time for some plastic adhesion promoter. Basically, the goal here is to do a wet-on-wet paint application to where the adhesion promoter will help the paint melt, so to speak, into the plastic. It does not change the grain or mess up with the look of the panel whatsoever. When done right, it will not chip, it will not peel, it will look like you just ordered the part from the factory. And I am especially proud of how this dashboard came out. This is the first time I've ever redone something so vast. And I was worried that, maybe the finish would vary going across this sheet of plastic basically. And everything just kind of blended together and cured flawlessly. I was so happy. Of course, as the top portion of the dash dried out, I went ahead and started tackling some of the other parts as well. Most of everything else within this particular Escalade's interior is a color called Shale. So I used Sim's Shale for all of that stuff, repeating the exact same processes as the dash. Of course, before the paint, got some sand-free adhesion promoter, and then while it was wet, start applying the paint in some light coats. It's really important not to layer this stuff on too thick. You can cause runs, you can cause reactions. I've even accidentally had some spots where the paint went on too quick and it actually kind of cracked and stuff as it was trying to, cure and shrink. So be very careful. When doing this, patience is the key. You cannot rush this. The patience that you have, you will be rewarded with. I'll tell you guys what, seeing those first few products come out of tape looking like I just ordered it brand new from GM was an amazing feeling. I was already excited, but it was such a motivational booster to keep going, to take all the time in the world that I needed to do because everything was going to look incredible. Same goes with the dash. With some of the little parts done, I decided to tackle the two-tone part of the dash. So masked everything off appropriately. I didn't have any issues with the coating lifting or flaking. That was a concern, but again, I did all of the proper prep work, and after curing for 24 hours or so, it was perfectly fine. Once I completely unwrapped the dash, I could not believe how well it came out. Now there are a couple of small little plastic tabs here and there that you will never see once the dash is assembled that were actually cracked and broken, so I'm still going to go back and fix that just to make sure all of the mounting holes and everything like that are nice and fixed up and secure and whatnot. But for being a 20 some odd year old dash of unknown sun exposure, this is amazing. So after that big stuff was done, it was time to tackle all the rest of the little parts. There's a variety of plastic littles that didn't have the soft touch coating that just over the years with sun exposure and stuff, they just started to yellow a little bit and didn't quite match the shale of the other parts. So I went ahead and refinished those as well. It's really common for the coating on the glove box door, the rear of the console, all that kind of stuff to start chipping, so it took a long time to strip some of these parts because the coating was in better shape on some parts than it was in other parts. So between the pressure washer, the scrubby wash, and just hours, it seemed, of sitting, scrubbing, peeling, masking, painting over and over, everything finally was starting to come together where I could actually start putting piles of parts in the floor and getting that gratification of, wow, this interior is really coming together. I even went as far as pulling the airbag cover out because of course that had to match the rest of the dash, and I painted the air vents on the passenger side just because, again, like some of the plastic little parts, they had discolored a little bit over the years and we can't have that. The next thing I wanted to replace was this climate control module, which had some chipped up paint and a burned out bulb, but the most annoying thing was a dead spot in the driver's side temperature dial. So anytime I tried to set a temperature around the 70-degree mark, it would just get a mind of its own and sometimes shoot up a few degrees or down a few degrees. Very, very finicky. So I picked up this Dorman part number 599-211XD. It's a self-calibrating climate control module. It's some of their proprietary technology, so all you have to do is just plug it in, turn the power on, and let it auto-calibrate. It works exactly like the original one did. Now, there are cheaper replacement modules out there, but there's a lot of mixed reviews and I haven't tested any of them personally. I've had good luck with Dorman products in the past, so I wanted to give this one a try. Plus, it's assembled in America and comes with a lifetime warranty, which is sweet. Now, there are a couple of cosmetic differences I just wanted to point out. I believe the backlighting is like a white LED, so they don't 100% match the rest of the interior lights, but it does look nice and clean. The center display, I think, is also not tinted quite as dark, so you see some more of the circuitry in the background, but really minor stuff at the end of the day, but again, it does differ a little bit. Also, keep in mind, it does look more noticeable on camera than it actually does in person. Since I've already gone so far with taking the interior apart, I decided to go even further and pull the door panels off. At a quick glance, nobody would ever think there was anything wrong with the door panels, but I'm super picky and there's some subtle issues that I just could not let go. I want to make this thing as nice as I possibly can, so I'm going the extra mile. First and foremost, the little wood strips on the doors, which are unique to the Escalade. In 2002, when this body style first came out, they were really nice like wood veneer pieces that were clear coated. There were metal studs on the back that actually screwed to the door panel. Well, these, in 2003, when the interior got the refresh, they kind of cheapened out a bit and just put these plastic pieces, so they're not real, but they do add a little bit of warmth to the interior, whatever. But because they're plastic, they have these plastic studs on the back with these, what do you call them, speed nuts or whatever, and it is super common for the plastic studs to snap off and fall into the door panels, so the wood trim ends up popping off, getting loose, or even falling off altogether. Some of mine or pretty much all of mine are loose and were about to fall off. So I decided to break all of the studs off and permanently adhere them to the door panel. They don't need to come off anyway. There's no reason for them to come off. So I had some spare panel bonding adhesive, which is super overkill. I mixed some of that up and put it on each of the stud locations, pressed them onto the door panel, and used some heavy tow hitches to just weigh everything down for 24 hours, and it worked perfect. The second thing I wanted to fix were the front armrests. Thankfully, there were no structural issues, like no broken tabs or mounting points, anything like that. It was just cosmetic. The armrests are padded, and it's very common for the bottom portion of that padding to start to curl away from the armrest just because of heat and UV exposure over the years. Some do it, some don't. But I was able to use that same panel bonding adhesive. I had just enough left over to peel the material back, squirt it in there, and then I took masking tape and just wrapped the entire armrest really, really tight. Let it sit for 24 hours, and it took its shape once again, and they look brand new. So now, just to paint them, make them look all nice and fresh, and move on. Another really common thing to break on these GMT 800s are the front door switch panels, and a lot of it comes down to the fact that many people don't know how to pull these off properly and end up accidentally breaking them. Fortunately, it was just my driver's door one that needed attention. What happens is that there's a clip at the back that secures within a recess in the armrest, but at the front, there's a 7mm screw. So people will think, oh, pop a clip at the back and there's got to be one at the front. Well, if you try to do that, you'll end up breaking off the mounting stud. You actually need to pull the door panel off to get access to that 7mm screw. You can buy new switch panels off Amazon if you just wanted to chuck your old one and just throw it in, and they're not very expensive, but I was able to repair mine because my mounting stud was still there and it was a clean break. So I've got some super strong super glue, got it set in place, and it's going to work out just fine. Being that I'm painting the armrests, I'm also going to repaint these as well because they've discolored a little bit like many of the other interior plastics, and now they're going to match 100% with the armrests, and once everything is installed, it's going to look like brand new. Let me be the first to tell you, it's really easy to get sucked into the rabbit hole of, while I'm in here, I might as well. So I'm going to be really picky about this turn signal switch. It works fine, just cosmetically a lot of the icons are worn down. And I don't want to do all of this work and put all this fresh stuff back together and drive down the road later looking at the worn out buttons being like, oh man, I wish I would have just done that, because it's a relatively easy thing to do. Now, at this point, it's a lot simpler, but typically you have to pull off the dash bezel, the lower dash trim, and then start taking apart the steering column trim, which is the plastic piece for the tilt lever and the top and bottom halves of the column trim. It basically just snaps together, and there's little hooks at the back that you have to unhook. But the turn signal switch itself is held in by a couple of torque screws and then a variety of wire harnesses. Now, just like the climate control module, replacements for these things are all across the board. You have really cheap ones, you have ones that are over $100, you have OE options. Now, I just decided at this point, because I've just gone way above and beyond, I wanted to go the more, instead of saying cheap, let's just say the more affordable route. So I found this one that had good reviews, so I figured let's give it a try. It went back in exactly like the factory one. All of the connectors plugged in exactly like they were supposed to, and when I ran it through its full gamut of tests, everything performed exactly like it was supposed to. I'm super stoked. The cruise buttons, the wiper control, the misting, the high beams, everything worked, and the switch looks fantastic, so hopefully get a lot of years out of this one. With the new switch in place, it's just a matter of snapping the top and bottom column covers together and then popping back the plastic piece for the tilt lever, and that's pretty much it. Before I get the door panels back in place, I decided to replace all of the door speakers. Now, these factory Bose speakers were actually in really good shape. None of them were blown, which was surprising. I mean, this thing is over 20 years old now, but it has super low miles and it wasn't really exposed to any extreme elements. Otherwise, these are fairly common to go bad just because they have paper cones and they get fragile with age. So I'll just keep them on a shelf for, a rainy day or so. But the factory speaker sizes are 6.5 inch in the front doors and I believe 5.25 inch for the rear doors. I found a spectacular open box deal on a set of Kicker 6.5 inch KS series two-way speakers, which are going to be able to take better advantage of the extra power the aftermarket radio is going to be able to generate. Now, the listing said open box, but I find no evidence of them being open box. They look 100% brand new, so not complaining whatsoever about some cost savings. But these speakers are really nice. I've used them before. They're going to work out really nice in the Escalade. Now, if you don't want to cut the factory speaker harness, you can buy these plug-and-play adapters. Again, they're in my Amazon store, so all you have to do is just plug them in and be ready to go. Now, being that the original rear speakers were smaller, I did have to make some modifications to fit the 6.5, but fortunately, physically, the 6.5 inch fits just fine. There are these locating tabs for the original speaker that I had to cut off with my Dremel, and of course, I had to put in some new holes, but that's it. Now, for a little extra measure, I got some Second Skin automotive insulation butyl rope, and I basically wrapped the inside channel of all 4 speakers to help give it a nice tight seal against the door and provide some deadening effects. So with all of everything done, the speakers in place, my new screws in, now I'm moving on to the front doors. The front doors, being 6.5 inch, don't require any modifications other than some new holes to be drilled in the door panel. Now, I had the idea of using the factory Bose speaker enclosure because it has the dust shield and all that kind of stuff on it, but I could not figure out a way to separate the speaker from it without it completely destroying the speaker and in the process ripping the dust shield off the back and whatnot. So I decided not to ruin a couple of original speakers just for the sake of an experiment. These will work out just fine. They don't have the paper cones like the original one did, and I've never had an issue with them being exposed to moisture. I mean, they should never be rained on or anything like that just because of where they're located in the door. But after all that, tested everything out, sounded great, got the door panels back in place, so that is one big list of things that are now crossed off the list. The only upholstery that's being replaced are the tops and bottoms of the front seats. Everything else is still in really good shape after all these years, so I wanted to save some money versus getting extra upholstery done and just try to do as much of a thorough restoration as possible. I ended up coming across this company online called Seat Doctors. Again, this is not sponsored, but they offer some really awesome products and custom formulate their own dyes based on your interior color code. And from my experience, I got some for the Escalade and for the red interior of my Fiat 500 Abarth, and the color match is so spot on, I can't tell the areas that I touched up versus the areas that I didn't. I ended up doing a full restoration of the second row seats, all of the headrests, and some areas of the third row. I only got clips, though, of the center console just because it took a lot of hours to do, and I just fed everything into my day-to-day workflow. But I'm telling you what, the results are absolutely phenomenal, and you'll get to see all of that stuff close up at the end of the video with the highlight reel. While I was working on the leather restoration, I started putting the dash back together. This was almost as stressful as it was pulling everything back out because everything has to go back in a specific order. Like the airbag, for instance, if you put the dash in, get it all nicely in place without the airbag, you're going to have to pull the dash back out because the airbag has this little lip that tucks in behind the dash. Now, when putting the dash in, there are these little tabs that run along the base of the windshield that the dash slides into. The little tabs on the dash can easily break as well, so I actually had to repair some of those. So you gotta make sure when you get that thing in to get all of the tabs lined up correctly before you push it in and get the pressure clips set in place. If anything is misaligned, you could risk breaking the dash. And when it comes to putting in all of the screws and fasteners, you also want to make sure not to tighten it too tight. Again, you can risk cracking the dash. In the second row seat, there's a 12-volt power outlet in the back of the center console above the cup holder assembly. I picked up this power adapter on Amazon that includes 2 USB-C and 1 USB-A outlet. I've replaced the 12-volt power outlet with this. Had to bore the hole just a little bit bigger, but it looks factory clean and gives a little bit of extra modern convenience if I'm carrying friends. This Escalade came factory equipped with XM radio in 2004. The aftermarket radio I installed is Sirius XM capable. I bought the module to be able to hook it up, but I actually didn't have to run a separate antenna. The factory antenna wire I just unplugged from this module underneath the dash and took off the little plastic connector. It plugged directly into my new Sirius XM module, so it's going to work with my aftermarket radio exactly like it would have from the factory. Admittedly, I did not film or take pictures of the entire disassembly of the dash and center console, even though I should have. That was kind of a mistake, because when it came to putting everything back together, I kind of forgot the order here and there, so I fought myself a little bit. If the center console is completely tore apart, it's a lot easier to just go ahead and put the side pieces back on than the lower dash trim, just because of how everything kind of fits together. I made the mistake on the passenger side putting the lower glove box trim and stuff on first, which made putting that right side center console trim on super difficult, but I made it work. Learned my lesson on the driver's side though. To get that new USB power outlet installed, it was just a matter of snipping the harness where the 12-volt outlet originally was, then soldering in the new power and ground wires. The power wire is also fused, adding an extra degree of protection. Once all of that was done, shrink wrapped, and all tied back up together like factory, it was just a matter of starting to snap the center console the rest of the way back together. This was by far the most nerve-wracking part of the reassembly. My original dash bezel was cracked pretty severely. I ended up finding a perfect one online that I paid dearly for. So putting it back in, I was sweating bullets basically, making sure all the tabs were lined up, making sure, all the pressure points were applied, uniformly and stuff, because I didn't want to take a chance on breaking this thing. You can still find uncracked bezels out there, but they're usually from northern vehicles from, salvage yards online. So, just a little bit of FYI. Of course, once I got the dash bezel installed, I realized that the color I used for the dash, GM Very Dark Pewter, was just a slight shade off. And it still is for the steering column and the steering wheel itself, but I don't care about that as much. It still looks good, but I couldn't deal with the little color difference between the bezel and the dash itself, so I ended up carefully pulling it back apart and refinishing it exactly like I did with all of the rest of the interior parts, and it turned out so good. Everything is crisp, fresh. I'm very, very happy with it. Now, of course, the last major thing that I want to show you guys is replacing the front seat upholstery and the headliner. I've thought about doing this myself. It's not an exceptionally hard process, but it is so much easier if you have an extra set of hands to help you. Plus, my schedule has just gotten really full lately, so I honestly haven't had much time to film any special project content. So I ended up enlisting a local shop, Scarlett's Auto Interior of Mocksville, North Carolina, to help me push this video to completion. These guys have been doing auto upholstery for many years, and I've used them on other projects like my Chevy S10 build that I did a while back. So they let me hang out for the day. I basically just watched the install, and you know, there are plenty of other people on YouTube that have done how-to videos and, you know, basically more in-depth versions of what I'm showing you guys right here. But that's really not the point of this video. We're basically just going along for the journey and giving you guys a highlight reel of everything that I did to make this thing feel like new on the inside. So anyway, if you're looking for a more in-depth video on how to do all of this stuff, just go on YouTube. There's a plethora of content. everyone, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Please don't forget to leave a like down below because it really helps the videos a lot. And if you haven't subscribed already, consider doing that as well. And make sure those notifications are on. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.